I'm Alex Seropian, project director on Stubbs.
I am Matt Sell, writer for Stubbs.
Let's talk about where the idea for the game came from.
Well, we were all trying to come up with game ideas, and no one had any good ones. Mine were the worst of all. And I remember walking around one day, my house just being sort of despondent that I hadn't come up with anything good, and I was trying to come up with a good action idea, and I thought, where does action in games come from? People running around, chaos in the streets, cats and dogs lying together, the dead crawling out of their graves. Hey! And so yeah, it seemed pretty obvious that it was about time for a game where you could play a dead guy and have him eat a bunch of brains. And so that's, in short, where the idea came from.
So we're sitting around with probably a few dozen game ideas written up on one page a piece, and yeah, so we started talking about what if you were the zombie.
Yeah, we actually had a vote. I remember we had a big meeting and there was a vote, and this was the only idea that everybody seemed to vote for.
Well, it was top five. Everybody had their top five.
Right. Well, we picked three, and this was the one that I think
was in common.
Yeah, it was one thing that seemed to keep popping up. There are a few other strong contenders too.
Yeah, it just barely beat out that game idea, which was all stick figures.
Just barely.
One of the cool ideas what we had at the beginning, which stuck, was the idea that it takes place over the course of just one day.
Yes. Yeah, starts in the morning, ends at night.
And it's kind of cool how it's all cyclic, where you start right here in front of the main drag downtown Punch Bowl, and it ends right here.
That's true. Yeah, it was almost planned that way.
Yeah, there's lots of bookends like that. I wonder how many people will actually discover them.
I wonder if there's a prize for people to discover. Nah, probably not.
Well, people could just feel good about themselves for doing it.
Yeah, Stubbs changed a lot. The character of Stubbs and everything he's doing, the people he's fighting. We went through, I don't know how many different attacks on that idea before we found something that we could live with.
Yeah, man, it was amazing how many concepts we went through just on the look of Stubbs.
That was a long, drawn-out, painful at times process.
Yeah.
Because I think we all sort of had some idea of what we wanted, and it was just very difficult to get that look, which is weird because it's to look at Stubbs, you would not necessarily think that every detail was painstakingly rendered, but yet we went through probably hundreds of iterations of Stubbs before we got to that point.
What were some of the, I remember having this conversation where we were trying to get inspiration for what he would look like by thinking about what actors he looks like and stuff.
Oh yeah. Who was
on that list?
That was a very interesting list.
Buscemi was on that list.
Steve Buscemi was there. Tom Waits was there.
Tom Waits, that's right.
And the Don Knotts. Someone suggested Don Knotts. Alan suggested Don Knotts.
Well, you can see a little Don Knotts in him.
There's a little bit of Don Knotts in everyone, and Stubbs is no exception.
But yeah, that was another idea we had sort of early on, which was civilians as power-ups. So all the civilians you can eat in one bite.
And they're not just power-ups. They go from... They're the only power-up that keeps on giving. because you eat their brain and they turn into your pal. That was the other. There were a few big ideas for Stubbs that were present right from the very start. One of them was the idea of conversion, that your goal would ultimately be to subjugate and conquer this city by converting as many of its citizens into zombies as you could. And the other big idea, I think, was possession, which is sort of similar in that you would be able to use other people's abilities by possessing them somehow to compensate for one of Stubbs's deficiencies, like he can't get into a certain area, or he doesn't have a bazooka, or whatever it is.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. I remember recently going back and looking at that one pager we had almost 2 years ago, and a lot of the design ideas that were in there stuck.
For all you trivia buffs out there, my direction to Amy Warren, the actress who played Guidebot, was Carol Channing on meth. I think she did an excellent job.
Nailed that one. There's a few big design challenges that we started trying to tackle at the beginning. One was creating the world, this sort of retro futuristic, engineered city of the 50s. And our strategy there was to put in lots of robots and hovering cars and shiny stuff, things that looked like it came out of a World's Fair.
And we also tried, I remember trying to research stores and stuff from the 50s, trying to get a decent feel for what cities were actually like then and what someone in that era would want when they built a city of the future.
Yeah, there was this great artist, his name was Raidbaugh, who drew all these, he was doing like this crazy art back in the 50s and 60s, and he had this whole series under the heading of The Future We Were Promised, which was sort of inspirational for like our monorail and some other elements of the city. We got a lot of inspiration out of looking at architecture that was built for the World's Fairs too.
Yeah. You would be surprised at how much research we did for a game about a dead guy who runs around eating brains.
Yeah, we got all these cool books that were had all these ads that were done in the 50s. Man, there was some funny shit in there, like this cigarette ad. What was that one?
The baby with the look on its face. The baby's just done something horribly wrong, and he's looking up at mom with the big puppy dog eyes, and he says, "Yeah, before you strike me, mom, strike up a lucky strike," or something like that. It was something really awful.
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
Come on, mom, have a cig.
Yeah.
Chill out.
It's better than
Sorry.
abusing me.
Sorry for playing ball in the house.
Yeah, that was funny. And then I remember we bought this stack of like Life magazines and Time magazines from the 50s, and when they showed up, they were like completely covered with mold, so we had to stick them in the other room.
We had to stick them on the other side of the office in an opened window.
Yeah, whatever happened to those?
I think they fell out.